what's going on, Blackish fam? I hope all is well in your corner of the world. I wanted to touch on something actually religious today. If you really understand what this channel is about, it's called Blackish University Modern Day Griots. You might be asking yourself, what exactly is a griot, right? Well, it's someone back in Western Africa that would pass information down from one generation to the next. Griots were treated well in society. They had to maintain large amounts of information. They would tell you the good, the bad, and the ugly about your past, right? And they would help you make decisions about your future. And they would tell you through stories, through music, through dance. And that's something that we're trying to do on this channel, right? Get the information to you. Yeah, it might look like we're just breaking down hip hop lyrics, but we're trying to extract the information that's within these songs and get it out to the masses, right? Especially music that has positive vibes, or they're exploring or they're discussing positive change, right, in our neighborhoods. I wanted to also talk about what do we do when we want to look into religion, right? If you don't have a father at home, if you don't have a big brother, if you don't have someone to bounce ideas off, how do you go about religion, right? Everyone wants to say, man, you got to believe in God, you got to believe in something. I was raised a little bit different. I actually, my mom wouldn't tell me what her beliefs were or who she voted for, because she wanted me to think independently when I grew up. I'm grateful she did that, but I'm also ignorant when it comes to religion. I don't get a lot of the biblical references. You'll see when I'm breaking down music from like Ciroc, Toby Wigway, right? If somebody's referencing Cain and Abel, things like that, I get it, but I can't go in depth like I could with U.S. history or Black history or random trivia, right? But I wanted to tell you a little bit about my journey. And there was actually an experience that I had that really changed my view of religion. So I wanted to kind of just highlight that, get it out there. I'm not sure if you guys have stories too. I'm sure there's a place on YouTube where people just discuss their stories and their encounters with a higher power. This actually happened to me, and I'm forever grateful. Um, for those that don't know, I went to Northern Illinois University from 2000 to 2004. I went back as an adult, but that was my years of like my undergrad. I was a member of a fraternity. I had my first car. We were going to parties and drinking, doing our thing. Well, one day I went to I had a flat tire. I needed my brakes changed, and I think my girlfriend at the time, her family was actually helping me pay for the brakes. And I went to a place called Tuffy. They're not really in Chicago anymore, but they used to be. Now they're more in the suburbs. But anyway, when I left Tuffy, I noticed that people were like trying to flag me down and wave me down on the streets. I didn't know what was going on, and so finally I talked to someone. I spoke with someone, and they said, "Yo, you have your tire is wobbling, right? It looks like it's gonna come off." I'm like, what? I get out and I look. Well, it looks like they never actually tightened. They might have just screwed in the bolts for the tire, the wheel, but they never went the zzz, 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 right? Oh, Cars phase, right? They never did that. So I'm like, oh man. And then a big bubble, somehow from the wobbling or whatnot, a bubble was on the inner tire of my wheel. They were like, yo, if that pops, you're going to lose control. At the very least, you should move the tires, whatnot. I'm just a hard headed 17, no, probably 18, 19-year old at this point. And I just didn't go with it, right? So I used to go from Chicago to DeKalb, Illinois, which is about an hour to an hour and a half drive. And I was picking up my old school friends in Chicago and meeting that up with my new school friends, my fraternity boys at NIU. So we're on Interstate 88, which is a street shot. It goes from Chicago to the western suburbs. And I'm just flying, right? 80, 90 miles an hour. That wasn't uncommon, right? I got probably 4 or 5 of my guys with me, and I had this 94 Nissan Sentra. And don't judge me, but, we're just driving. We're talking about girls. We're talking about the party. And this is where it happens. We're on 88. And all of a sudden, I see there's a woman on the side of the road. And for those of you that know Illinois, the road between after you get past Aurora, Illinois, going to DeKalb, Illinois, there's a whole lot of nothing. It's a lot of cornfields. So it's uncommon to see someone standing out there. And this was, again, don't judge me. I was a different guy back then. But this was a white chick who was maybe in her 20s, maybe 30 at most. But I just remember thinking she was an adult. Not that I wasn't, but she was like in her 20s. Leather coat on, as far as I can remember, jeans, but I don't remember anything about her face. But, me and the boys, and again, don't judge me, but we're like, yo, we're about to get out, we're going to pick her up. And like, yo, well, where you going? How far are you going? Blah, blah, blah. We're going to run a little game and see what happens. Again, don't judge me. So I pull over, and immediately this chick starts walking up, and she starts pulling on the door handle. As soon as she touched the door handle, I immediately pressed lock, and she kept pulling up. And I was like, man, this bitch is crazy, right? Let's just keep going. And I hit the gas. We go and we pull off, and just like 3 seconds later, 5 seconds later, you hear like a gunshot. Bah! And I'm just like, oh, shoot. Boom, 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 boom. Like, oh, man, the tire blew. God damn. And I'm like, man, this crackhead chick is going to come up and start messing with us or whatnot. I pull over, and I look back, and the chick's not there. And I'm like, I'm a reasonable, rational person. So I'm like, okay, there's all these cornfields. There's nowhere she could have went. But that did sound like a gunshot. She might have thought we were up to no good and just dove down or went into the cornfields or rolled down, whatever. It wasn't a big deal. So we get out of the car. My one buddy, P, gets out. He starts working on the tire. And I'm standing there like trying to rationalize this, right? Like, where could she have possibly went? I know another car hasn't passed. There's nowhere else she could be hiding, and I doubt she would have dove into this like dense cornfield, right? So I'm looking back, I'm looking all around for any sign that she actually was, and I'm talking to my friends like, yo, and they're like, yo, man, that chick was a crackhead, blah blah blah. I'm like, yo, you guys saw that too, right? Like, woo! And I thought it was just me tripping. And then we're all just sitting there, and we all get quiet. And my buddy's changing the tire, my guy P. And he's just like, yo. He's like, and we all just look at each other, and we're like, man, if we didn't pull over and we were going 80 or 90 miles an hour when that tire would have popped, I would have lost control of the car in an area there's not really a lot of people to see if you lost control of your car. We could have all died, or at the very least got severely jacked up. And we're just all thinking, we're looking at each other. And these are my closest friends that I still talk to this day. And we were like just looking at each other. And I was like, you know what? And keep in mind, I am not what you would call a religious person. I've always considered myself agnostic. You don't believe the existence of God can be proven. It doesn't mean that you don't believe in a God, but you don't believe it could ever be proven. And you really don't know what to think, right? I think I believe in a higher power, but not necessarily in a traditional God. But I've never studied religion. I've never read the Bible completely. So we're just sitting there, and we start talking. And I was like, man, if someone truly knew me, not the surface level me, but the asshole 19, 18-year-old me, fraternity boy me, they knew exactly what it would take for me to stop then and there. And it just changed the way that I looked at religion. Now, because we all got in the car, and I tell you, the next 20 minutes or so driving to NIU, it was just extremely quiet because none of us could really answer the question as to what just happened. Now, we all knew that we came really close to possibly losing control of the car had we never changed the flat and put this donut on. But we couldn't explain who the girl was, why she was on the side of the road, why she disappeared. And immediately I said, you know what? I'm so grateful that happened because, and I was talking to my friends, some that believe in God, some that don't. And I was like, I might not believe in your God, but I believe that there is a higher power that stopped us from dying that day. They intervened. For some reason, it was thought that we had more to offer the world than losing our life at just 18, 19 years old. And man, so many people have lost their life at that age under similar circumstances. What makes us different? Why is it that we saw someone and we pulled over when the next person might have hit a car or flipped over or went into a ditch? So I just wanted to share that because on this station, I always say, this is where you get the information that you can't find in school, right? This is Blackish University. There's no government-led curriculum, right? There's no, I manage this all myself. So I want to eventually explore religion. I've questioned religion. I've struggled with faith myself. But stories like that didn't happen to someone else. It's not like I'm reading watching a YouTube video or reading a book. This actually happened to me, and it's something that I absolutely can't explain. So soon, I'm going to start diving into religion and just exploring it, exploring it from just an intellectual point of view, and just trying to ask the right questions and see if I can build on my faith, explore religion, and just dive a bit deeper into it. But I just wanted to share my story. I'm sure there's those out there that have similar stories. Feel free to leave them in the comments. I'd love to hear a bit more about your experience. But I also wanted to say that I did explore Christianity. I ended up going to a Christian church. I told them what had happened to me. It was a great church, and I met a really cool pastor. He was speaking to me. He had something called Meet the Pasta, where they give free pasta. It's like a spaghetti mastacholi night, but Meet the Pasta is like a play on words for Meet the Pastor, right? And it was going great. And then all of a sudden, I was going to church. Everybody was in this little clique. Everybody had their own. It looked like a high school lunchroom. I didn't have anybody with me, so I'm just like, what is everybody whispering about? And then the pastor walked on stage with a sad look, and he stepped down. And it turned out that he was using money to pay his Amex card, like tithing money, and he cheated on his wife, and it just completely tainted my whole experience. The only other time that I went to explore religion, it was this place called New Life in Chicago. I never thought I would actually write a bad review about a church, but I wrote a bad review on Google about a church. It was just such a bogus experiment. It was like, again, like high school. And funny thing was, a lot of people that I went to high school with did go to this church. And I swear the girls were just looking for a baby daddy. People were over there. One of my guys was on the leadership team, and he's smashing girls that are on the chorus, and he's managing the chorus. And he's telling me that some of these chicks on the chorus got husbands that are part of the congregation. And he's shaking their hand, saying what's up, and smashing their wife. And I'm just looking like, what is going on here? But the final killer for me was one day when I started dating this girl. She was white and black or something like that. And I took her to the church. I was starting to go every Sunday. I took her to church, and we went to a little outing. And the next day, there was something on Facebook from this deacon where he's basically like, it seemed like my scenario, but it could have been anyone, right? I was like, I'm probably thinking too much into this. But I started looking at it, and people started hitting me up like, yo, B, is old boy talking about you and your girl on Facebook? And I'm like, I doubt it, but let me check it out a little bit more. And this dude was basically saying, if you are with a woman who's not a woman of God and doesn't support this, and she's nothing, and you're this. And keep in mind, I'm like, probably 2 to 3 weeks into going to church at this point, no more than a month, right? And I'm just like, nah, he's not talking about me. But then the next day he posts something else. And this is a dude that I was cool with. He was a deacon there. And then finally I hit him up, and I was like, yo, bro, maybe it's just me, but your Facebook posts seem a little, and he just goes off about girls and women of God. And I reached out to the church, the executive team, who I was also cool with. And I was like, yo, I don't know what's going on with this and this, but you can keep my name out your mouth, bro. And I had to check this dude, and I had to go do the, you're going to find out how I earn my stripes. I'm mess around and take off this blazer and slap the out of you. And, we got into it, just a little internet thing. And I was just like, you know what? Too much drama for me. I'm done with the church, done with it. And it wasn't until recently that somebody locally in my community invited me to go to church with them, and I decided to explore it. So these are the reasons, these are the things that happen, right? And Black communities and Spanish communities where there's people like me that want to explore faith. We struggle with our own faith, but there's so much garbage that happens with in church. It's like a fashion show or girls looking for a baby daddy and girls walking up like, I didn't see a ring on the finger. And I'm just like, boy, you better sit your thick ass down. I'm taking, I forget my ring all the time. But yo, it's like you coming at me at church. It's just like, that's not what I expected. It's not what I'm here for. So yo, I plan to dive a bit deeper in exploring religion. I'll create its own separate playlist. And I'm just because I explored Christianity, that doesn't mean I'm a Christian, right? I don't really know what I'm doing. I've explored Black nationalism, and I read a lot of Malcolm X's work, but some of that seems a little bit extreme. But I have a lot of friends that are Muslim as well. Back when I was younger, I lived with a Pakistani dude, and he'd have all his boys over. We'd be listening to hip hop, and some people were smoking, others couldn't touch drink, right? Couldn't touch alcohol. And others were pulling out their mat. They had prayer schedules on the fridge. So it's definitely something I'm familiar with, but I don't really know what to believe. I don't know, but I do feel like there's a part of me that's missing. And now that I have kids and I have teenagers, I don't want to just pull them from religion because I'm ignorant on religion. I want them to do their research, but I'm thinking we can do this together. We can research different religions, try to understand a little bit more about them. Maybe I can actually have a pastor come online and give a little bit of a service or talk to me a little bit more, but we can dive a bit deeper into it together. And you don't need to leave your home every Sunday. You don't need to put on your Sunday's best hat and your Now and Later Gators, right? Your Stacey Adams, your prom outfit. Get this old prom outfit out, so honey, it still fits, right? But no, we're gonna do this together. And if you're a fan of exploring things and having just intellectual conversation, don't come on here bashing Christianity or Muslims or Allah or what. Don't raise your voice and prove your argument, right? I just want to hear the facts and just get the facts out there so that we can explore religion ourselves and make our own decision as to what direction we want to go. If you're a fan, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I imagine we'll get into this. Maybe it's something that I'll do every Sunday, right? So instead of going to church, it's something where you can look forward to a video where we explore God and we explore what that means, what it's meant in the past, what it means now. Without tithing, you don't need to tithe. You don't need to send any money, right? And just subscribe to the channel. You'll get notifications when I put something out, and we can dive into this together.